Week 3. We are now entering week 3 of what can only be described as a masterclass in political deception. 3 weeks since the Department of Justice dropped a memo that effectively slammed the door shut on the Epstein scandal. This isn't just another news cycle, another fleeting controversy. This is a story about a promise made and a promise broken. A story about power, control, and the deep-seated corruption that many believe rots the very core of our government. Remember how this all began? The Trump administration, riding a wave of anti-establishment fervor, promised us transparency. They promised to pull back the curtain on the sordid affair of Jeffrey Epstein. They even put on a show for us. Pro-Trump influencers were invited to the White House, handed prop binders labeled Epstein Files, and posed for a grand photo op. It was all a performance designed to convince people that they were on their side, that they were committed to draining the swamp. Draining the swamp. That was the mantra, the rallying cry of a movement. An anti-corruption movement that sought to wrestle control of the government from an elite cabal, a shadowy group held together by money, by blackmail, by secrets. If that was the goal, then the Epstein files weren't just another issue, they were the issue. This was the key to unlocking the whole rotten system. This isn't about compartmentalizing issues. This is the foundation. Think about it. Why has our government failed us for decades? On healthcare, on foreign policy, on trade, on every single front? Could it be because our so-called leaders are not motivated by public service, but by fear? Fear of being exposed. Fear of the secrets held by intelligence agencies, by powerful oligarchs. If our politicians are on tape, as some have suggested, engaging in the heinous acts, then they don't work for us. They work for their blackmailers. You have to start with transparency. You have to expose the rot. You have to hold the guilty accountable. You can't spend a decade screaming, drain the swamp, and then, once in power, decide that the swamp is actually a protected wetland. You can't tell your base that you are their vengeance, their voice against the corrupt establishment, and then turn around and say, actually, we need to bury the Epstein blackmail files for the sake of public order. That's not how this works. And the base knows it. For the first time, we're seeing a full-blown rebellion against Trump from his most ardent supporters. They are furious. They are ratioing him on his own platform, Truth Social. And the polls? The numbers are catastrophic. A recent CBS poll shows his job approval with the younger demographic has plummeted a staggering 50 points in just 1 month. This isn't a dip, it's a political freefall. This is an existential threat to the very coalition that swept him into office. He's lost Silicon Valley. Elon Musk and the techno-optimists. Gone. He's lost the deficit hawks and the anti-war crowd. The Thomas Masseys, the Rand Pauls, the Dave Smiths, anyone who didn't want a war with Iran, they're out. He's even losing a significant portion of the Hispanic vote he worked so hard to court. And the QAnon supporters, the ones who believed he was the ultimate anti-corruption crusader? They're gone too. So who's left? According to the narrative, it's a motley crew of administration job seekers, die-hard Zionists who love his aggressive foreign policy, and a handful of loyalist influencers. People like Mark Levin, Ben Shapiro, Laura Loomer. That's not a winning coalition, it's a lifeboat. And it's taking on water fast. The drama isn't just playing out in the polls, it's paralyzing the heart of the government. Right now, Representative Thomas Massie of Kentucky is trying to force a vote in the House, a vote that would compel the Department of Justice to release all of the Epstein files. And what's the response from the Republican leadership? House Speaker Mike Johnson is effectively shutting down Congress weeks early for their summer recess. Why? To avoid that very vote. Axios reports, and I quote, House Republicans have virtually stopped work on all major legislation leading up to their 6-week summer recess to avoid taking votes on forcing the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files. Think about that. They've shelved votes on immigration and environmental legislation, all to dodge transparency on Epstein. Democrats are planning to attach Epstein-related amendments to everything, and the Republican leadership's solution is to just pack up and go home. All while Trump is reportedly making frantic calls, pressuring Republicans to kill the vote. Massey remains confident he can get the 218 signatures needed for a discharge petition to force the vote eventually. But the message from the top is clear: cover it up at all costs. July 20th marked 6 months since the second Trump administration began. 6 months. And where are we? We've gone to war with Yemen, hitting them harder in a month than Biden did in a year. We've bombed Iran, and Trump has promised to do it again. A massive, big, beautiful bill was passed that slashes Medicaid by $1 trillion to pay for corporate tax cuts. Deportations? We're averaging about 14,000 a month. A far cry from the millions promised. It's even fewer than under Obama. And front and center, this glaring, insulting Epstein cover-up. It's so clumsy, so blatant, that it almost feels intentional. A middle finger to the American people. And what's next? A 6-week congressional recess. Then the holidays. Before you know it, it'll be 2026, the midterm elections. And the Democrats will have a field day. The Republicans are cutting your healthcare to give tax breaks to corporations. They're rounding people up. And the very people who supported Trump in 2024, the Joe Rogans, the tech bros, will be leading the charge against him. I predict that as the midterms approach, Trump won't double down, he'll back off. We'll likely see him push for more H-1B visas, more foreign workers, betraying another core promise. The Republicans will likely lose the House in a landslide. And then? Impeachment. Endless hearings, subcommittees, and political gridlock. And in 2027, the whole circus starts again. Trump will be a lame duck president, and his cabinet, the J.D. Vances, the Kristi Noems, the Marco Rubios, will all be jockeying to be his successor in 2028. The 4 years will have flown by, with nothing to show for it but broken promises and a more divided nation. It's the story of his first term, replaying as a tragedy in his second. As if the Epstein cover-up wasn't insulting enough, the administration decided to add a layer of pure, unadulterated gaslighting. This week, the Department of Justice released 6,000 classified files related to the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. They hailed it as a triumph of transparency. Seriously? You bury files about blackmail scandal that potentially implicates the most powerful people alive today, and you try to distract us with files from 1968? And not even the good files. The New York Times reports that historians have found little new information in the release. The most crucial documents, including FBI wiretap recordings of Dr. King, remain under court seal until 2027. So, they didn't even release those 2 years early. They gave us illegible, digitized pages of information we already had. Crap to distract us from the crap they're pulling with Epstein. This is the kind of brazen, in-your-face dishonesty that got Trump elected in the first place. People were sick of the lies about weapons of mass destruction, about Benghazi. They were tired of the media telling them an administration was scandal-free while the country burned. And now, the ultimate outsider is using the exact same playbook. The Epstein thing is a Democrat hoax. Don't believe your lying eyes. Hey, look over here. Some old files on MLK. Aren't we the most transparent administration ever? It's a slap in the face. They know we know they're lying. They just don't care. This isn't a new phenomenon. It's a cycle that's been repeating for over 30 years. George H.W. Bush's no new taxes. Bill Clinton's optimism, which soured into the Monica Lewinsky scandal. George W. Bush's lies about WMDs in Iraq, squandering our peace and prosperity. Barack Obama's hope and change, which led to bank bailouts and perpetual war. Each time, the lies got more brazen, and the public's anger grew, culminating in the election of Donald Trump, the man who promised to burn it all down. And what did he do? He bombed Syria, cozying up to the military-industrial complex. He cut corporate taxes, enriching the donor class. He buried the Epstein scandal. After all this, after decades of being lied to by Clintons, Bushes, Obamas, and now Trump, something has to give. People say Trump was the best president in my lifetime. But what is materially better? We can keep our shoes on at the airport. We have cane sugar in our sodas. Is that the prize after all this struggle? Because everything else is more expensive. There's more crime. And contrary to what you might think, our culture is far more woke than it ever was before. In a way, his victory was a necessary evil. It's an accelerant. It forces people to see the Republican establishment, and Trump himself, for what they truly are. This whole saga is a perfect, almost scientific, demonstration of how Republican politics works. For years, you play up the issues your base cares about. Trump, Don Jr., J.D. Vance, Dan Bongino, they all leaned heavily into the Epstein narrative. They hammed it up at rallies, promising to get to the bottom of it. I'm on every FBI list except the Epstein list, they'd joke, to thunderous applause. They do this cynically, to get your vote. They lie to you, and in exchange, you give them power. Once elected, they hope you forget. They realize that releasing the files would burn their own donors, their own allies. Peter Thiel, J.D. Vance's mentor, reportedly held $150 million of Epstein's money. Trump himself was friends with Epstein for years. These people are all connected. So, they talk a big game about fighting the left, but when it comes time to actually drain the swamp, they realize they're all swimming in it. They make a promise, they get what they want, and then they break that promise, hoping you're too distracted or too demoralized to notice. But we've noticed. This time, it's different. We wanted the Epstein files. Instead, they gave us the MLK files, files about a man many on the right view as a communist agitator. It's a cheap distraction, and it's not working. After decades of lies, after the ultimate anti-establishment champion became the ultimate establishment protector, where do we go from here? Has the cycle finally been broken, or are we destined to repeat it, again and again?